So actually, we submit ourselves to always being present and not holding on to one particular. So you see, all this conditioning, all this habit, we hold it. There's something holding it. And you can say ego is aggregated it and is holding on to it. And then there's a discomfort when somebody says something a different way. And we don't even hear it. We just hear our way. So we can sit here all day long. We can sit here for weeks at a time. And I might have been listening at some point and heard mata, not mata. And Cali is California.
Yeah.
California. And so you see Kali and you hear Cali.
Yes.
But it's Kali. And so you could be with somebody that knows, chanting every day, and they're saying Kali, and you're not hearing Kali, you're hearing Kali. Look at this mind, it's pernicious, it's obstinate. And you know, when Swami Shivananda says adapt, adjust, accommodate, this is exactly it. You want to submit yourself, be continuously able to adapt to cultures and people as they are, and traditions and the local laws and local customs and all of this. Because that's the way it's done here. I mean, in different places, there are different traditions, different pronunciations. Sanskrit is a particular way. I'm sure as heck not a scholar. So I'm not the one to say what all the accents, etc. mean. But the practice for us is to learn to listen, to learn to adapt, to learn, to be open to learning. You see, we always had a goal in learning. The question has always been, what will I get out of it?
Sure.
And what am I going to become? And when you're free of all of that stuff, you just learn. There doesn't have to be a purpose for it. The purpose is to be aware. The purpose is to be awake. The purpose is to be present. Mindfulness. So with mindfulness, we hear what the other person is saying. We hear what the pronunciation is. And yeah, there are things. People roll the tongues in Sanskrit, and Swami has not figured out how to do that.
Like the L is also not, like, and here, whoever doesn't speak Spanish still has the L.
Yeah, right. And so you naturally have some of the things that, I don't know, I won't give up on this. Eventually it might happen. I can't say it won't. But I hear it. That's the difference. That's the only difference is I'm present. And most of us are still present with the conditioning only. They haven't come into the sun yet. That's the only difference. And we want you in the sun. We want you in the light. We want you in your natural position. We want you to be able to hear clearly, to see clearly, to smell clearly, to taste clearly, to recognize what's there, what it is that you're, and what's here. This is what Krishna is wanting to do with us, is wake us up. Wake us up. Wake us up means let go of all the dreams, let go of all of the conditioning. It doesn't mean that there won't be conditioning with this body, but you allow yourself to continue to adapt and adjust and accommodate. Continue, no end to it. For what purpose? It's life.
Yeah.
It's life. The flow of life doesn't stop. And for what purpose? Just to be present. Just to be present. Swami Premananda Ji Maharaj would say, the present is the present. The present is the present. To be present is the gift. And there's so much, it's like these chains that we've woven, and now we hold on to, and we refuse to let go of them. Right? Because this is me. And this is my way. Right? and we refuse to let go of them. But us dragging them is the only thing that's preventing us from being present. And we drag them with us wherever we go. And we can't, as a result, we can't listen to anything but ourselves, but our own tape. Mm-hmm. Our own little world, our own likes, our own dislikes. You know, ashram life is structured in a way, people say, I like being at ashram. I say, no, you won't. No, you won't. You're going to learn to live regardless of like or dislike. Yeah. Eventually, you have to. You have to. You will have to learn to be alive. You say, I'm living. No, you're not. You're dead in this state. It's really a death where you stopped. At some point, you just stopped. You tied so many knots and you said, okay, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah, this is me.
This is me.
Yeah.
And you hold it. And you hold the thing that someone said to you a year ago, Shivadas, or 2 years ago. And you dream about it. And you imagine if it would have been different. If only, the great if only disease that we suffer from. If only I would have said this. We talked a little bit about that last night. You know, if only I wouldn't have done that. If only I wouldn't have said, but then if only they wouldn't have done that. How much of that is there? Right? And this happened to me.
Yes.
And that's the reason that I do it now. Well, it doesn't have to be. You come into the light and nothing has to be some particular way.
That's the beauty.
No. Yeah. The present is the present. All of this is about being able to be present, not to this limited idea. And so this is renunciation. Ultimately, this is renunciation. This is tyaga. What Lord Krishna is speaking of is letting go of the expectation of fruit. And we pick back up here, letting go of the expectation of fruit. And we need to chant the Gita Dhyana, because this is the lead into today's Gita lesson as well. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf, and people of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. You know, and this protection mechanism is wanting other people to change, or situations to change, and then these base instinctive emotions, feelings, all of this that have been with us so long, that have to do with procreation and possession and acquisition, and all of this stuff. That where there's some underlying idea that happiness is there, other than where I am. I got a message the other day from one of our family, and she wants to start Buddhist practices, and so it's like, okay, fine. I'll see if I can introduce you around. Always happiness is somewhere else.
Oh, yes. Always.
It's not, it could never be with what I have. It can never be in life with feel. That's part of this psyche, dear. Yeah. And that's very deep. It can never be as long as someone's called me something. That has to be corrected. They have to change. It can never be as long as I'm not able to do my art. You can fill in the blank. And so can you. And so that's a part of the psyche. It's a part of the conditioning. It's a part of this system of knots. Some longing for something other than the present. And therefore some inability to be present. And then we'll have an experience of the present, which is amazing. And then we'll immediately go into an imagining about how to keep it all the time. Where do I need to go in order to have it all the time? What do I need to do in order to
be present?
Or what does someone else need to do in order to be present?
Yes.
And the answer, of course, is how to be present is to let go of everything that's preventing you from being present. And that's in the psyche. And it doesn't happen overnight, by the way. That was part of the discussion as well last night. We can feel like, okay, this is it. I'm in the sunlight now. But as soon as that, then the test will come. And the test will trigger all the old stuff. Whether it's something about partnering up or something, whatever it is, it'll trigger all the old stuff. And, we'll hear from people, well, I thought I had it on spiritual path. I thought I had it, for months. It was really amazing. And then dark night. And dark night's a part of the process. So the renunciation wants to be the real. Tyaga wants to be real. It wants to be a project. It wants to be something that you're really committed to. And something, it has depth to it. And it has a lot with it. In this way, I'd walked pilgrimage, but in this way, we're all walking a pilgrimage. But the pilgrimage has a center ideal. It has a central ideal, and we talked about this. And eventually, you're going to have an ideal that you'll die for. And I know what you say, and that will do. But it has to be the real love, and it can't get caught up in any of the artificial love.
Yes.
Right? It can't be about likes and dislikes. It can't be about comfort zones. Right? So it'll take work. Yes? Yeah. But you're worth it. You're worth it. And love is worth it. Real love is worth it. It can't be about cliques and special relationships and this and that. It can't be.
Limiting.
Yeah. Because that's all limiting stuff. And those are conditioned behaviors that are in the psyche that will pop up while you're on your pilgrimage. And so you're going to need to see them and be wary of them and really, 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 really actively renounce them. And actively renounce. And when, we would talk with a dear one of our family who just absolutely loves the flowers. And she could not imagine a world where she deprived herself of the smell of the flowers. And we'll say, but dear, the flowers you can only smell every now and then. But the present is present all of the time. Do you see? Even when we get to those things that we hold on to that are most dear to us.
Yeah, of course, that's the attachment.
And that's attachment.
Instead of just enjoying it when it comes.
Yeah.
Momentary.
That's attachment to my preference, which is exactly what Krishna is speaking of here. So just to help make it real, this discussion. And everybody has something until we face it and release it. And when you face it and release it, you're going to get tested and tested and tested and tested. And then there's probably something else, and there's probably something deeper. So here, just to read and put it back in context of what we're talking about, because generally speaking, we're not all, we engage here in religious ceremony and such, and offerings, pujas, etc., etc. And what's being shared sounds like it's in the context of that. So acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity should not be abandoned, but should be performed. Sacrifice, gift, and also austerity are the purifiers of the wise, but even these actions should be performed leaving aside attachment and the desire for rewards. And even the desire to smell that rose at the end of planting it is exactly that. You see it?
Expectation, yes.
The desire to taste that cucumber after you've put in all of these months of growing it is exactly that. Yes? And you can say, what's wrong with that? And Swami will say, well, in the scheme of things, nothing really except your freedom. Will it change the world? No. World goes on. Will it cause a war in the Baltics? Not likely. But it's related to the cause of the war in the Baltics, which is the desire for personal fruits. I did this and I deserve the little joys of life. Yes? You see how we can convince ourselves that it's okay.
Always.
But it's a perversion that prevents us from being in the present. And maybe half of the people who are joining us online have switched off on saying this.
It's awakening. Yes.
Our dear Raina, I won't say exactly what she said this morning, but she was holding on to two things. She actually took a walk. She talked to God. She said, I withhold nothing. And it's really tough. And so there were two things she was holding on to that she swore off yesterday. And she sent me a note. Said,
it's that tough. Yeah, the last two.
Good for you, dear.
Yes.
You're going to be tested. And the great test, there are things that we have to do in our duty that we have to do. You have to care for Theo, right? And with everyone, there are things that we have to do as part of our duty, but there are actions within it, or actions or relationships within it that are bringing about the triggers, and so. That's in the battle. That's what it means to be in the battle. And you can't leave the battlefield.
No.
And so, but the fruit needs to be renounced. And you see, it's the desire for my fruit. This is sattvic tyaga. Sattvic tyaga.
Oh, so can I just share when I get angry if she doesn't do something, like my expectation of she not behaving a certain way?
Yes.
Then it's just that, the fruit of me raising a good child.
Yes.
And I just realized I do have an expectation of her becoming a certain way.
Yeah, you see, it's very subtle. Now, you want her in the light. You want her to be in the light. You want her to be able to be present. But also, what she does and all of this, I mean, that's hers. But you also want, to the extent that you can, to help so that she's not tying knots to the extent possible, right? And is able to focus on what she came here to do. And ideally, we want our own knots not to get in the way and not to contribute to the relationship. So we have to be busy untying them.
Right.
Yeah. So, so leaving aside attachment for the desire of the rewards, O Arjuna, this is my certain and best conviction. So, and he's teaching battlefield yoga. Right? Verily, the renunciation of obligatory action is not proper because you have to do it. And that's not just the religious stuff. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Renunciation of obligatory action is not proper. The abandonment of the same from delusion is declared to be tamasa. So he stepped into the tamasic renunciation and then the rajasic renunciation, or tyaga, abandonment. He who abandons action on account of the fear of bodily trouble, because it is painful, does not obtain the merit of renunciation by doing such rajasic renunciation. Right? And that's all through us, too. A pain will come. Why is the pain coming? It's a test, for goodness sakes. You have to make your own choices. Swami can't make your choices for you. No. But I can point out tests are always coming. And so we have obligatory duties. We have others that are not. Other responsibilities that we take on to ourselves that are not. But we have those that we signed up for and we said, I shall do no matter what. And a pain will come. And when you don't do it, that's rajasic. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's rajasic for any reason. It's rajasic. Now, it may be so that the building has fallen on you and then you legitimately can't get up. But short of that...
You can always muster.
Well...
You can.
Yeah. Short of something that absolutely prevents it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stomach aches don't qualify.
Headaches, backaches, anything. If it's an ache, you can deal with it.
Stomach aches don't qualify. And I'll share on this. And for our dear Mukti, this is, and everyone, these are shlokas 7 and 8 that we've just reviewed. Speaking of we've just talked about the sattvic tyaga, or the sattvic non-attachment. And now to compare and contrast, Lord Krishna is sharing us the tamasic version of it and the rajasic version of it. Tamasic version being to renounce the action, the obligatory action, what we're to do. Right. That would be telling the person that comes to you and wants help moving.
Sorry, kid. Oh.
Sorry, I have to go to satsang.
When you have to go help first. Satsang's here. In the heart.
Oh. Or sorry, I'm not feeling well today. That's rajas.
Yes.
That's rajas. So 7 and 8. I had an experience, I'll just share it. And this is just a personal experience, but one of the tests that we had here had to do with coming into ashram life and this commitment to meditate every day and to transcend the terrible knots that I was carrying and all of the terrible energy that I brought into everything. Very possessive. Mine. And so I made the commitment to meditate. But what happened is, by the time I got to ashram in India, I was experiencing pain right here. And it was just a little bit of pain here. but sometimes a very sharp pain whenever I would sit to meditate. And so you could probably see the story right now. But as I continued, every day I would do, but the pain got sharper.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd been in Madurai ashram I was there for a month, it was starting to get pretty sharp. And then I went up north. I met Swami Premananda and Swami Ramaswarup. I joined yoga teacher training, which was very close by to their ashram, 4 kilometers away. But I was involved in that for a month, and it continued. And at some point, it became literally like someone stabbing a knife in my chest. It was like that. It was very sharp, very pronounced, and all of that. And I started wondering, what could it be? And I actually had a doctor there, and I went to see the doctor and asked him about it. He had some idea, but my situation was it didn't really make any difference what it was, because I'd committed to the Lord to take this course, to take this course of action, to go in this direction, to go towards Him, and meditation is an absolute requirement. It's an absolute requirement. So there has to be some practice of meditation, whether it's inside, outside, or both. We have to center. We have to come back to awareness of God, back to awareness of the center. And really, we need to do it both.
Yes.
Everything is to be covered over by the Lord, and meditation, both. And so meditation was absolutely required. This is the practice that I was given. So it's like, I don't have a choice. But I would start, as soon as I would sit, I would start sweating. And the sweat would just be pouring down. But I sat there. And I told God, it's okay. Whatever you give me, I will sit here. And the next day, I'm sitting there, and this sharpest pain. I know you can imagine, because everybody's had very sharp pain. So I can't say it's worse than anything. I can just say it was extreme.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and in a moment, the sensation remained. But instead of it being painful, it became excruciatingly pleasurable.
Yeah.
Just like that. And I laughed, and I said, I knew it was you.
Just.
And that was it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That was it. So if you have a duty, and you know what the duty is, and you know that you have to do it, God's never apart from you. The Lord is never apart from you. Right? Never. We can know it at some level, and then we can grasp it with the conscious mind. But then we have to put it into practice. And putting it into practice will take resolve, and there will be tests. Relinquishment. This relinquishment is absolutely the same. The non-attachment is the same. What Lord Krishna is teaching here. And everything is preparation for this. All of the practices are preparation for this. And they support it as well. But we get even attached to the practices at some point, because the practices have fruit also, sattvic fruit. So there are practices that you engage in that are very pleasurable. Yes, meditation can be one of them when you really get it. And then we attach to the pleasure, and we refuse to deal with what's coming. So it's simple. What's being shared is simple. Whatever you're attached to, you let go of. It doesn't mean stopping to do it. That's tamasic. Right? And rajasic is you fail the test. When something comes, you don't do then. And that's rajasic. That's where the test is. So the guidance is, as we move on, this is really the introduction to the 18th chapter. As we move on, this is the most important part of the teaching. This is what everything that we engage in our life is building up to. Everything's preparing us to let go of this little I. To let go of this little I, to come into the light, to be present. And that's the Tyaga, is let go of everything that it wants. Let go of its influence on you. Let go of those fruits that the urges are guiding you towards. Body needs to eat. Absolutely. We had that conversation. It's not your body. It's not you. So don't stand in the way. Don't stand in the way of it. But don't get wrapped up in it either. Okay, so let's close and let's bring the Om Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha into what page number is it on? Because some may not. Sorry?
107.
107. Okay. So we can chant that 9 times and then we'll continue with the final prayers on page 174. You can start us off and we'll all join in.
Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha.
Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Vichaye Namaha. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukmiva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukmiva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam Orvai Rukmiva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Makashit Dukhabhat Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mritor Ma Mritangamaya. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. On below Satguru Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all of the saints and sages of all the traditions. Let's stand for Arati, and please lead the Arati.